keynote speaker, we're just truly honored to have Dr. Lee Edwards with us. He is regarded widely as the chief historian of the American conservative movement. He has published more than 15 books about leading individuals and institutions of American conservatism, including biographies of Ronald Reagan, Barry Goldwater, Edwin Meese, and the history of the Heritage Foundation. In fact, he's currently working on an updated version of the Power of Ideas, Heritage's official history. Dr. Edwards is Heritage's Distinguished Fellow in Conservative Thought. Also serves as Adjunct Professor of Politics at Catholic University of America in Washington, D.C. He is the chairman of the Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation. This is an organization we should all learn a lot about because they're doing some really incredible work over there. It reached an important milestone, an important goal in 2007, the creation of an international memorial in Washington to more than the 100 million victims of communism. Modeled after the statue created by Chinese students in 1989 before the Tiananmen Square massacre, the memorial stands at the intersection of Massachusetts Avenue Northwest and New Jersey Avenue Northwest. President George Bush helped dedicate it on June 12, 2007, saying that while we will never know the names of all who perished, at this sacred place, communism's unknown victims will be consecrated to history and remembered forever. A prolific writer, Edwards has been published in appears to be all the major newspapers, and he's appeared on all the talking head shows, from Fox and Friends, the McNeil Lehrer, C-SPAN, Washington Journal, NPR. He has lectured in nearly 20 countries on various aspects of American and world politics. Edwards is the founding director of the Institute on Political Journalism at Georgetown University and a fellow at the Institute of Politics at the JFK School of Government at Harvard University. He is a past president of the Philadelphia Society and has been made a media fellow at the Hoover Institution. Dr. Edwards holds a bachelor's degree in English from Duke University and a doctorate in world politics from Catholic University. He did graduate work at the Sorbonne in Paris. He and his wife, Anna, who assists him in all of his writing, live in Alexandria, Virginia. They have 2 daughters and 8 grandchildren, and we are really honored to have Dr. Lee Edwards.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really honored to be here, and I'm a little bit intimidated because of the presentations which have preceded me. They've been so brilliant, so insightful, and there were several examples that I'm going to use in my own talks. And I love the one about the desk and the telephone. Isn't that a great one? I'm definitely going to use that. It's a lot easier to move a desk at the Heritage Foundation, I want to tell you.
Here, here.
Thank heavens. I'm pleased to be here once again in Detroit. I was here in 1980 for the Republican Convention, which nominated Ronald Reagan for president. It was a great and historic time for the Republican Party, for conservatism, and for the United States. I've also been able to come back here and visit, among other times, the birthplace of Russell Kirk, whom I know is one of the real heroes of you all. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be down speaking at Piety Hill in Mecosta on Saturday morning, and it's always a great privilege to talk about Russell Kirk and how important he was. Well, and thank you, Darren, very much for your very generous introduction. Thank you so much, you all, for inviting me to be with you this evening. And you're still here. I can't believe it. It's 9:15. I promise I'll get you out in not too long a time. But I have to be honest with you guys. You know, I have a sad duty tonight to announce. I have to announce the death of conservatism. The death of conservatism. And I've just received this terrible news from the most reliable of sources. Dr. Sam Tannenhouse, who was the author of a very wonderful biography of Whittaker Chambers, and who is the authorized biographer of William F. Buckley Jr. And Sam Tannenhouse just released a book just this week called The Death of Conservatism. And he writes that for 75 years, the right has been split between two factions. The realists, who believe in the virtue of government and its power to adjust to changing conditions, and the revanchists who distrust government and society and want to return to a pre-New Deal Cold War era. Movement conservative, he says, is not just defunct, and decadent, but dead. But he insists, America needs its conservatives, so long as they are conservatives who understand that the true role of conservatism is not to advance a narrow ideological agenda, but to engage in what else? A serious dialogue with liberals and join them in upholding the politics of stability. Well, I'm going to pay for this because Mr. Tannenhouse is the editor of the New York Times Review of Books and the editor of the Sunday New York Times in Review. But I have a word for all of this. Poppycock. We do have a mixed audience, and I could use stronger language, but I'm not going to do that. I'm almost tempted to say, you lie. Well, I'm here to say that American conservatism, the kind articulated by Friedrich Hayek and Russell Kirk, and practiced by Barry Goldwater and Ronald Reagan, is not dead, but is alive and well all across the country. What's the evidence? The tea parties, the hundreds of tea parties which have been held in this country starting back in the spring. The town halls which have challenged, shall we say, our members of Congress. The 9/12 rallies, and there was a wonderful rally in Washington, D.C. this past weekend. Quite a bit of discussion about the numbers, how many people turned out. All I can say is, and I've been in Washington practically my whole life, that I've seen very few rallies that were able to fill up the mall, as was done this past weekend.